Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. Okay, so we are in the start of 2024. Late in 2023, Carbine released this new automatic dead latch, and it's pretty much designed to take on the Lockwood 001. And as people know, that's been the industry standard for a lot of years. It's a very tried and tested product. So I just wanted to run through and talk about a few of the features here, because it is reasonably quite interesting, and they are, well, they're both doing the same job, so it's hard to know which one to kind of choose, but I want to go through some of the things that a lot of people might or might not know. All right, so first of all, I'll just move that over so you can read it. There we go. So it's a fire-rated automatic dead latch, and one of the things that I found out that I thought was quite good is that it can handle a wider gap in the door. So what that means is that a lot of people who have fitted the Lockwood 001s, you'd know that you've got to have that gap right down to I think it's between 2 and 4 mil maximum. So a couple of mil. If your strike is too far off or your lock is too far off, you're going to get too much gap. If you've got too much gap, the secondary trigger on the dead latch, which is this little triangle here, won't be pushed in enough. And if it's not pushed in enough, you can get a credit card or a library card and shim the door open, defeating the dead latch. So that was a huge sort of problem with the 001, but when installed correctly, it's not an issue. But one of the things I'm liking about this new Alpha dead latch is that they've actually increased the gap. So even if you do a slightly sloppier installation, you got a little bit too much gap, because some doors do have too much gap. You know, builders are not perfect, and this gap right along here is perfect. Sometimes it's a little bit wider. So if you're faced with that situation, this lock will then be able to overcome it, because it'll still be dead latching. Dead latching meaning that the big triangle is in the keeper, and you can't shove a credit card down the middle of it to get it open. So that's an interesting point there. The next point I want to go over here is the bolt is reversible. So this is a cartridge system. It's easier to take out than a 001 mechanism, Lockwood 001 mechanism. So that's a benefit there. Next benefit is you can rotate this latch to the right position. Sometimes if the door's opening inwards, you need to rotate it. Sorry, outwards you rotate it, inwards it should come standard set for inwards. So to do that, you might have seen my other video which I put up about 9 years ago, where you've got to dismantle this mechanism here and then put this part in a vise and then tap off the triangle, reverse it, tap it back on, reassemble it in the lock. So the Alpha makes it a lot simpler process of doing that. Less parts, less springs, less things to dismantle. So that's interesting. Next thing to note here is require a lever to operate in the downwards direction. Now for our regulations on some For our regulations on some doors, we do need them to open in a downwards lever configuration for fire regulations and things like that, or disabled access and things. So with this, you can actually select which way is the downwards direction before you put the lock on, and then you can have your lock operating with a single-handed lever direction to exit, which is what the requirements are with the regulations. So that's pretty cool. With the Lockwood 001, look, it operates both ways. If you've got a lever, I'll just show you that one, Lockwood 001 lever. If you've got a lever, you pull it down, it'll operate, you pull it up, it'll operate. The only difference is it'll have a holdback function on one of the sides, which once again, you've got to dismantle the whole thing to remove. I believe the cartridge system has a holdback system as well, which can be disabled from somewhere here. Still a new lock, still getting used to it. Someone can leave it in the comments how to disable it. Okay, next interesting fact here, fire rated as a primary lock. Now, I've been using Lockwoods for a long time, like everybody has, and we all know it's fire rated. They had that campaign with the fire brigade bursting one open on a unit front door, and yes, it is fire rated, but one of the things I don't like about Lockwood is, where is my fire rating? It says all these numbers here, you know, certified Australian standards, these numbers, okay, great. Where's it mentioned about my fire rating? And it's what they're not telling you that just really annoys me, because it's left up to the locksmiths to assume. Now you see advertisement with this lock being on a unit front door and fire brigade pushing it off, so you think, oh yeah, everything's great. But here's the thing they're not telling you. This 001 and this 001 lever are only fire rated as a secondary lock. Okay, so you still need another lock on your front door. You need to actually have that second handle below it to make this 001 comply. Now, they're not writing that anyway, but what Carbine is writing here is fire rated as a primary lock with little asterisks. What that means basically is that, here we go, so I've gone through all their fire specs and all the rest as far as here we go, eco door, fire core, poly panel, so it's 120 minutes, 2 hours as a primary lock, and let's just look at that. So there they are, they're displaying it as a primary lock. So that's something different, as where Lockwood I can't find this information on the Lockwood 001. It's a product that's been out for 20 years, and it's king of the castle, like number one in the industry for unit front doors as adding a secondary lock or a dead latch to a unit front door to make it stronger. But I can't find the information, so I think that's pretty cool for Carbine to actually put it all there and link all the way to it, all their products as far as fire rating. Must cost them a lot of money because it's like 10 pages. Each one of them fire rating tests are not cheap. But here we are here. It is fire rated, 60mm back set, cylinder size, door thickness, and you can go through and you can see all the bits and pieces, you know, what they've fire rated, how they've tested it, and that's really good. At least now you know that you can put it on, you know, a unit front door and it'd be fine. One of the things to note on this too is that this is fire core and poly panel and eco core. That's what they call these new fire doors. So anything that I think in the last 15 years or so would be one of these ones. So if you're putting this lock on an older door, well, it might not be fire rated for that older door. I mean, there's no point in manufacturers actually fire testing, you know, 30-year-old asbestos doors. And it goes without saying that I don't think even Lockwood would have fire tested it on some of the older doors. We're all just putting them on assuming, hey, look, it's fire rated, it's this and that. But it's most likely fire rated on a lot of the similar type doors. So can you put this on a unit front door? Absolutely. Can you put it on 90% of them? Yeah, absolutely. And you'll be basically doing exactly the same thing we've always been doing with the Lockwood dead latches. The only thing is we've got paperwork for anything in 15 years and older, 15 years to now, you've got all the paperwork. So this is a good place to start, as where Lockwood I'm not very impressed with not being able to look that up. Challenge yourself to find out the fire rating on a Lockwood 001. I know we all know it's fire rated, I know we all know about it, and you can put it here and you can do this, but I challenge you to find the information to say that it's fire rated as a secondary lock. I think it's a little bit lazy for such a big manufacturer not to have documentation on that. So it's a thumbs up there for Carbine yet again with their documentation. Okay, NCC disabled requirements. Now, because we've been talking about using this as a fire rated primary lock, this really suits a lot of government housing or housing commission units where they're simplifying things just down to one simple dead latch, and they also want to comply with disabled regulations, so whoever uses their properties, you know, if they're disabled, it's going to comply. So this is pretty cool that it does comply with that. That's yet another tick. There might be some literature on the disabled functionality of a Lockwood 002. Once again, I couldn't find it. If you